You've probably met someone who seems to have it all: sharp intellect, endless ideas, and the ability to solve complex problems in no time. But even the brightest minds face struggles that others often overlook. Smart people, despite their brilliance, often battle with isolation, stress, and a constant tug-of-war between their intellect and emotions. What if I told you that these struggles aren't just random? They're rooted in the very nature of intelligence itself. It might sound counterintuitive, but being exceptionally intelligent can come with its own set of challenges that most people don't understand. These challenges don't just affect their personal lives. They can also impact their mental health and relationships. Why do highly intelligent people struggle more than others? How can they break free from these cycles of doubt, perfectionism, and stress? The answer lies in understanding how Stoic philosophy can help manage these unique issues, blending ancient wisdom with modern science. In this video, we'll explore the problems smart people face and how the timeless teachings of Stoicism offer practical solutions. Whether you're trying to control overthinking, cope with social isolation, or deal with unrealistic expectations, Stoicism provides a path forward. If you find this intriguing, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Stoic Narratives Official for more insights into how Stoic principles can transform your life. Let's dive in and uncover the powerful tools Stoicism offers for living with purpose, even in today's fast-paced world. Number 1. Loneliness in a hyperconnected world. As long as you need others, you will be a slave to them. Seneca. A man walks into a crowded coffee shop, his phone buzzing with notifications from social media and messages from work. He scrolls through updates, friends' pictures, professional posts, and news articles. But despite the digital connections, he feels a deep sense of isolation. He is surrounded by people, yet no one understands his thoughts, his questions, or the intellectual space he occupies. The noise around him feels hollow, like a distant echo that never quite touches his mind. He spent years building his career, networking with peers, and constantly improving his knowledge. He is respected for his intelligence, but no one seems to connect with him beyond surface-level exchanges. His conversations often end up being about trivial matters, and even his closest friends don't seem to grasp the depth of his thoughts. Despite being constantly connected online, the feeling of being alone in a crowd grows stronger every day. Then one day, he has an unexpected encounter at a bookshop. He strikes up a conversation with an older gentleman who shares his passion for philosophy and deep intellectual discussions. The conversation flows effortlessly, each sentence building on the other as they explore ideas about life, meaning, and purpose. For the first time in a long while, he feels truly heard and understood. But the real twist? The man he is talking to introduces him to Stoic philosophy, something that challenges his view of connection entirely. The older man shares how Stoicism teaches the importance of being self-reliant, finding peace within, and accepting that external circumstances cannot dictate our internal state. The man walks away from the conversation, reflecting on the wisdom shared. Stoicism, he realizes, isn't about avoiding connection. It's about transforming how he perceives relationships and his own need for them. He begins to understand that while social interactions are important, the true connection must first come from within. He no longer feels the weight of loneliness in a hyper-connected world. Instead, he learns to appreciate the quality of a few meaningful connections over countless shallow exchanges. This shift in perspective is rooted in the Stoic teachings of self-sufficiency and emotional resilience. The key lesson here is not to disconnect from the world, but to recognize that external relationships cannot fill the void that can only be filled by mastering inner peace and self-awareness. Stoicism teaches that while we may feel isolated in a world full of noise, true fulfillment comes when we rely on ourselves to find meaning, instead of seeking validation or connection through external means. When you feel that loneliness creeping in, ask yourself, are you seeking fulfillment from others, or are you cultivating the inner peace that allows you to stand strong on your own? How might your relationships change if you embrace the idea that the most profound connection you can have is with yourself? Number 2, information overload, intelligent but exhausted. It's not that we have little time, but more that we waste a good deal of it. Seneca. A woman sits at her desk, her mind racing as she juggles an overwhelming number of tasks. Her inbox is flooded with emails, each demanding her attention. News alerts ping every few seconds, and a quick glance at social media sends a new wave of information rushing in. She's intelligent, sharp, and highly capable, but in this moment, she feels mentally drained. She can't remember the last time she went a day without feeling like her brain was about to short-circuit. At work, she's always expected to make quick, informed decisions. Her expertise is valued, but the pressure to stay on top of everything, new developments, deadlines, the constant stream of information, is relentless. She knows she should take a break, but there's always something new to learn, something more urgent that needs her focus. Her mind is overwhelmed, and yet she still forces herself to consume more. Then one evening, as she stumbles upon a podcast about Stoicism, she hears a quote that stops her in her tracks. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The simplicity of the words hits her hard. For years, she has been convinced that more information, more input was the key to success. But here, Stoicism offers an unexpected twist. It's not the quantity of information that matters, but the quality of what we choose to focus on. The podcast continues, urging her to consider the Stoic concept of controlling what we can and letting go of what we cannot. She starts to laugh at the absurdity of it all. How she spent years chasing after every new piece of data, every piece of advice, without ever stopping to question whether it was truly necessary. It hits her. She has been trapped in a cycle of consuming information to avoid confronting her true needs, peace and simplicity. The next day, she makes a decision. She closes her email inbox, silences notifications, and sets boundaries on the information she consumes. Her mind feels lighter and clearer as she prioritizes what truly matters. The workload hasn't changed, but her approach to it has shifted. She realizes that Stoicism doesn't just teach acceptance, it teaches discernment. It's not about ignoring the world around us, but about learning what deserves our attention and what we can afford to let go. Are you constantly drowning in a sea of information, unable to pause for a breath? What would happen if you consciously decided to consume less and prioritize better? Perhaps true intelligence isn't measured by how much we know, but by how well we can choose what's worth knowing. As you go about your day, consider this. When you feel overwhelmed by the flood of information, ask yourself, what is truly essential for me to focus on right now? Number 3. Excessive worrying, the cost of being smart. Worrying is wasting today's time to clutter up tomorrow's opportunities. Seneca. A man sits in his office late at night, staring at the screen. His mind races through the consequences of every decision he's made over the past week. Did he say the wrong thing in that meeting? What if the project doesn't meet expectations? He replays conversations in his head, dissecting every word for hidden meanings and potential mistakes. He's brilliant, always 2 steps ahead of everyone else in the room, but tonight, all his intellect seems to have done is leave him drowning in a sea of worry. It's not that he doesn't trust his abilities, he does. It's just that his mind never seems to stop analyzing, predicting, and ultimately fearing the worst. The pressure he places on himself to constantly perform at the highest level is a double-edged sword. His intellect is his strength, but it's also his greatest weakness. Every decision feels like a high-stakes game, and every potential error seems like it could shatter everything he's worked for. But then, in the midst of this mental storm, something unusual happens. As he rereads a piece of Stoic literature he had bookmarked months ago, he comes across a simple truth. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. For the first time, the constant cycle of overthinking begins to slow. The words stick with him, making him realize that his worry isn't coming from the real world, but from the endless scenarios his mind constructs. The twist? The Stoic philosophy doesn't call for a life without worry, but a life where worry is acknowledged, understood, and then discarded. The Stoic teaches us that we can't control everything, no matter how brilliant we are, and worrying about what is beyond our control only adds weight to our already heavy minds. He understands now that while he can prepare for the worst, he cannot live in it. Instead of trying to predict every outcome, he starts taking action and embracing the moment. Have you ever found yourself paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong decision? What if your worrying isn't about the future, but your inability to let go of what you can't control? How much energy do you waste imagining scenarios that will never happen when that energy could be put to use creating the outcomes you want? As you go through your own day, consider this. What would it look like if you chose to focus only on what you can control and let go of the rest? How much lighter would your mental load be if you embraced the Stoic idea of accepting uncertainty instead of constantly fearing it? Number 4. Decision paralysis. Too many choices, too much thinking. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Epictetus. A woman sits at a coffee shop, glancing over a list of choices that could change the course of her career. Should she take the new job offer with its promise of a higher salary but a completely different industry? Or should she stay in her current role, where she's comfortable but the growth potential feels limited? She scrolls through her notes, analyzing every possible scenario, every risk, every reward. Her thoughts bounce from one option to the next, unable to settle on a clear path. The decision feels heavy, each choice laden with what-ifs. She imagines every possible outcome. The new job could bring excitement and growth. But what if she fails to adapt? Staying where she is would give her security. But what if she misses out on a chance to push herself further? Her mind races, caught in an endless loop of analysis. And yet, as the minutes pass, she's no closer to a decision. The more she thinks, the more paralyzed she becomes. Then, in a rare moment of clarity, she remembers a lesson from Stoic philosophy. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputation from storms and tempests. Suddenly, she understands. Her struggle isn't about choosing the perfect option. It's about making a choice and taking action, regardless of uncertainty. The Stoics didn't obsess over every possible future. They focused on the present moment and the actions within their control. The decision itself wasn't as important as the ability to make it and move forward. The twist? After a few deep breaths and a shift in perspective, she chooses the new job. An unknown path, yes, but one she feels she can navigate. And in that moment, the weight of her indecision lifts. She realizes that the paralysis wasn't caused by too many choices. It was caused by overthinking them. The Stoic way wasn't about avoiding difficult decisions, but about embracing the discomfort of choice and accepting that perfection is a myth. How often do we get stuck in the endless loop of possibilities, afraid of making the wrong move? Are we so concerned with choosing the best option that we forget to act at all? What if the greatest skill isn't in choosing perfectly, but in choosing quickly, moving forward, and learning from the outcomes? As you reflect on your own life, consider this. What's one decision you've been putting off because you're too busy weighing every possible outcome? How would your life change if you took a page from Stoic philosophy and made a choice, trusting that real learning happens through action, not endless contemplation? Number 5. The influence of emotions, stress from overthinking. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Epictetus. A man stands in his kitchen, hands trembling slightly as he prepares dinner. The events of the day replay in his mind like a broken record. The difficult conversation with his colleague, the email he sent that may have been misunderstood, and the presentation he's yet to prepare for the next morning. He knows he should relax, but instead, he continues to overthink, analyzing every single moment, each word he speaks. What if he's made a mistake? What if this one small error costs him his reputation? His mind is spiraling, and with each thought, the stress builds. But then something unexpected happens. He catches sight of a book on his shelf, a book on Stoic philosophy that he had picked up months ago but never fully read. He opens it and reads a passage that seems to speak directly to him. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The simplicity of the message hits him harder than he expected. All this time, he has been allowing his emotions to control his thoughts, letting stress dictate his actions. The twist? The Stoic lesson isn't to suppress emotions or ignore them, but to control them. Emotions, while natural, shouldn't dictate how we live. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we have full control over how we respond. The key isn't to avoid stress or emotion, it's to acknowledge it, observe it, and then choose how we react. He realizes that his overthinking and stress are based on a fear of losing control, but in trying to control everything, he's only causing more stress. Instead of fixating on every possible negative outcome, he decides to embrace the uncertainty and focus on what he can control, his response. With this shift in mindset, he begins to feel a sense of calm he hasn't experienced in days. How often do we let our emotions take the reins, believing that if we think hard enough, we can somehow control the uncontrollable? How many times have we let a single stressful moment ruin an entire day, simply because we couldn't let go? What if the solution wasn't to fight our emotions, but to accept them, understand them, and then choose not to let them rule our actions? As you go about your own day, think about this. What emotional reactions are you holding on to that are only adding stress to your life? What would happen if you let go of the need to control every outcome and simply chose to respond calmly, focusing on the present moment instead of worrying about what-ifs? How would your life change if you embraced the Stoic wisdom of controlling your reactions, not your circumstances? Number 6. Perfectionism, a barrier to progress. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. Vince Lombardi. A man sits at his desk, staring at his computer screen, reviewing the project he's been working on for weeks. He's gone over every detail, making small adjustments here and there, trying to perfect it. But every time he thinks he's done, another tiny flaw stands out. One more tweak, one more adjustment. He tells himself, just a little more time, and it will be perfect. The problem? He's never truly finished. The project is far from what he envisioned in his head, but it's still good enough to submit. Yet, the fear of imperfection haunts him. What if someone notices the small details he missed? What if this one flaw becomes the reason his work isn't successful? He's stuck, caught in the cycle of overthinking and perfectionism, and the clock keeps ticking. In the midst of this internal struggle, he recalls a passage from a Stoic text. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. At first, the words seem unrelated to his current predicament, but then he understands his desire for perfection is driven by his wants, his need to have everything just right. Stoicism teaches that satisfaction comes not from achieving perfection, but from accepting imperfection and doing the best with what you have. The twist, the realization hits him. Perfectionism is holding him back. By obsessing over minute details, he's preventing progress. Instead of chasing an ideal that will never be fully realized, he shifts his focus to progress, not perfection. He understands that the constant pursuit of an unattainable standard is a distraction, keeping him from completing the work and moving forward. How often do we get trapped in the belief that the next tweak, the next adjustment will make everything perfect? How many times have we delayed taking action because we were waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect solution? What if the pursuit of perfection is the very thing that prevents us from reaching excellence? As you reflect on your work or personal goals, consider this. Are you caught in the cycle of perfectionism, unable to move forward because you're waiting for everything to be flawless? What would happen if you let go of the need for perfection and focused on completing the task, knowing that improvement comes through action, not endless refinement? How much further along would you be if you embraced progress over perfection? Number 7, high expectations, the burden of success. Expectation is the root of all heartache. William Shakespeare. A man has always been a high achiever. From his school days, his family and teachers saw his potential and expected great things from him. The pressure was always there. He couldn't just be good, he had to be the best. And now, years later, that same expectation has followed him into his career. His boss expects him to lead important projects, and his friends assume he'll always have the right answer. But with every success, the weight of these expectations grows heavier. He's sitting at his desk one evening, a mountain of work piled in front of him. The usual thought crosses his mind, I can't fail. Yet he's exhausted. There's always another goal, another project, another standard to meet. He feels the constant pull of wanting to meet these high expectations, but with it comes stress, burnout, and the fear of not living up to the people's expectations. How much longer can he keep this up? One evening, he opens a Stoic book on a whim and comes across a line by Epictetus. "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He pauses, realizing the truth behind those words. The expectations others placed on him weren't the problem. They were simply a reflection of how others viewed him. The real issue was how he internalized those expectations and let them dictate his happiness and sense of accomplishment. The twist? Instead of pushing himself harder to meet everyone's expectations, he begins to focus on setting his own. Stoicism teaches that we cannot control what others expect from us, but we can control how we respond. He starts embracing the idea of focusing on what is within his control, his effort, his work ethic, and his growth. He decides to stop measuring his worth based on others' expectations and instead measures it by how true he is to his own values and standards. How often do we let the expectations of others define our path, pushing us into a cycle of stress and self-doubt? What happens when we let go of the need for external validation and start living according to our own standards? What if the key to peace isn't in meeting others' expectations, but in meeting our own? As you reflect on your own life, think about this. How much energy do you spend trying to live up to expectations that may not even be yours? How much lighter would you feel if you shifted your focus to what truly matters to you and embraced the power of setting your own expectations? Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. Epictetus. In this video, we've explored the unique struggles that highly intelligent people often face, like loneliness in a hyperconnected world, information overload, excessive worrying, decision paralysis, emotional stress, perfectionism, and the burden of high expectations. Through the lens of Stoicism, we've uncovered how these challenges aren't insurmountable. Stoic principles can offer the clarity, focus, and peace needed to navigate these struggles effectively. By embracing the Stoic teachings on controlling what we can, letting go of what we can't, and focusing on the present moment, intelligent individuals can transform their approach to life. Stoicism isn't about eliminating challenges, but about learning how to respond to them in a way that fosters growth and resilience. When practiced consistently, these principles can bring about true peace of mind. Now think about how you can incorporate Stoic philosophy into your own life. What small changes can you make today to stop overthinking and start living more intentionally? How would your world shift if you embraced progress over perfection? I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections. Have you experienced any of these struggles? How do you use Stoic principles to overcome them? Share your personal journey in the comments below, and let's create a community where we support each other's growth. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content from Stoic Narratives Official. Keep practicing, and remember, peace begins within.